a setting to where they are looking, going to meetings and looking at codependency, uh, then in doing that, particularly if they have a good sponsor that's pretty savvy, they will help them see how it is much more than codependency, that it could be love addiction. So, and until we look at the codependency and the codependence and really get in good recovery from codependency, we can't work on the love addiction. So, I want to give you the signs and symptoms or the process of codependence. And this is what uh, makes us codependent is one, there's 5 of those core symptoms, and one of them is negative control. I've never met a codependent yet that didn't want to control. And so it's negative control, trying to control everything and everyone outside your circle. Or maybe just 1 or 2 people. Maybe it's not everyone, maybe it's just some. And then the second one is having resentments. Resentment, and a resentment is, we know this, is about something happens to us in the past and we keep refeeling it. And so until we look at those resentments, that's the second in the process of codependency. And then the third one is impaired spirituality. People may say, well, I do believe in God, an agnostic is someone who believes in God but takes no action. And so you can believe in God but not really depend on Him. Or you can have just impaired spirituality, that there's no, you have no platform. You don't, really depend on the God of your own understanding, that power greater than yourself. That's number 3 in codependency or codependence process. And number 4 is having your own addiction or mental illness, some form of addiction. And not every codependent has this. Many do. Many do have their own form of getting, focused on too much of anything. And that can be food, that can be that can be sex, that can be love, that can be alcohol and drugs, that can be, any addiction will do. Or it can be mental, you have some form of mental illness. We've worked with many codependents, and majority of them have some form of diagnosed anxiety, depression, some form of mental illness. That's the 4th one in the process. And the number 5 is difficulty with intimacy. Intimacy is from the neck up, it's not from the neck down. Intimacy is into me, I see. It is where you can let other people see who you really are, and where you can really, be there and attempt to see who the other person is, instead of trying to tell them who they are or let somebody tell you who you are. And so, like I said, love addiction usually is often becomes visible when you do the codependency work, when you really get into the codependency work. And most of the time, those core symptoms can go way back to childhood. And that's where, love addiction is where one partner is focused on the other partner in the relationship and tries to, as much as we're focused on the other person, then a love addict really tries to avoid intimate. Well, no, we choose people who try to avoid intimate relationships. A love addict seeks people that are really not available. Like in a love relationship, a love addict will go after someone that is, let's say they're gay, and they just know that they can change them. They can love them enough into being straight. Or maybe they're married, or maybe they're, any number of things. A good love addict goes towards somebody that is not available to them. it's in the chasing. That is where the love addict gets their good feelings about themselves, is the fantasy. They build a fantasy of what a relationship can be like. And so they go after unavailable people. And then, and what we call those unavailable people are avoidance addicts. And so a good love addict will pick an avoidance addict that cannot be there for them. Now, every once in a while, this this avoidance addict, majority of the time, they have their own addiction, and any addiction will do. A lot of your love addicts will go towards someone that may be a sex addict. Now, they don't know that at the time. They're just, this love addict is just picked them out someone across a crowded room, and they're going for them, And it is, like I said, they usually pick an avoidance addict. And an avoidance addict will let a love addict chase them until they catch him. And then what that avoidance addict will do, they get so fearful of intimacy. And all of this goes back to the childhood on both sides. That's why we must do our childhood work. And see, now keep in mind, a day in the life of a child is much different than a day in the life of an adult. And children can suffer feelings of abandonment that when they come out of really healthy homes, and people on the outside would never think that there's been any form of abuse of any way. But abandonment can be set up in a young child's heart, because a child doesn't have the brain capacity to figure out why the parent's not there. Let's say any addiction will do. If you have a parent, let's say a father, that is a work addict, he gets up in the morning and leaves the house by 6 a.m., works all day long. Maybe he's a big-time businessman, comes home 9 or 10 o'clock at night. The child's already in bed. They go in, tiptoe in, kiss the child goodnight, and so the child has gone all day, days without actually having any contact, meaningful contact with the parent. That can set up abandonment feelings for a child. When they grow up, they will go after someone. We try to recreate the status quo. When we find a partner, we can't do it any other way. We go after what's familiar. So if we have had some form of abandonment in our childhood, another way that children can be abandoned, and this is more really your very young children, where they don't have the reasoning in their intellect yet, because they're so young. Let's say a parent has been, we've worked with a lot of them like this, maybe they've had a physically or mentally ill parent that was out of the home for a certain length of time. And that little child cannot reason out why that parent's not there. They don't know. There's nothing any more self-centered than a child. So the child makes it a lot about them. Why isn't my mommy here? Why isn't my daddy? Where are they? And so it forms up, it sets up that feeling of abandonment, and that little child will tuck it away in their heart, way down deep in their heart, and then when they get to be an adult, they'll pull it out, and that's the type of person they go after. I'm saying this in very simple terms, because we go after what's familiar. And so when I don't know, I just got off and it got me, got started there. So keep in mind that a love addict will go toward an avoidance addict. And what that means is someone that can't really be there for them. They seem to be, and I'll tell you, an avoidance addict, if they're a sex addict, they are hip, slick, and cool. They are very, engaging, flirtatious, and they'll encourage the love addict to come close, come close. It's kind of like ACOAs, come close, stay away. Adult children of alcoholics, come close, stay away. And so an avoidance addict, I mean, they're good at luring people in, bringing them in, but then they have such a fear of intimacy, and particularly if they have lived in a home where they were engulfed by a parent. Let's say a little boy had a mother that engulfed him. I mean, overloved him. I mean, reached down and drew him so close. Maybe she was having problems with her husband, and this little boy became way too much than what a child needs to be, for a parent. And so that's that engulfment. So your avoidance addict has a fear of that, of being engulfed again. And all of this is on a subconscious level. They don't really are not aware of this till they're aware of it. And like a little girl, maybe she was totally engulfed by her father and made to be much more than what a child needs to be, put up on a pedestal, and daddy's little princess or whatever. So when she goes after a man, she's expecting someone to be like that. And they're not out there, folks. I hate to tell you, and come back down and live in the real world. So some characteristics, there's 3 really major characteristics that sum up love addicts, love addiction. And one is love addicts assign a lot of amount of time, attention, and value above themselves to the person to whom they are addicted. Now, and then they focus until that becomes an obsessive quality. For instance, like I mentioned my mother, I assigned all of my attention to my mother from my earliest memories up until early 30s. It was all about my mother and my mother's needs. I'm just giving you an example. It could be a man, it could be, and I did have a little love addiction with my husband, but nothing to compare with my love addiction to my mother. And I assigned all of my time to her, even having a house full of children. If my mother was sick, she'd call me. She lived 165 miles away. She called me frequently. I'd pile those little kids in the car, and here we would go to take care of mother. I had to go. I had to go. There was something so strong. I'll tell you, love addiction is a powerful addiction to have. And what it does, you give yourself away to the other person. Love addicts have also unreal expectations of unconditional love from the other person. I'd like to tell you that love addicts are pure in heart. They're not. We don't just give love with no, and for free and for fun. We give it with expectation that they're going to love us back. Oh, I'm going to do this, and they're going to love me the best. They're going to love me forever. They're never going to leave me. And I'll tell you, if you want to get rid of a spouse or a boyfriend, girlfriend, you overlove them. You get into this love addiction, whether they're an avoidance addict or not. I mean, most people do not like that hovering, clingy, and that's what love addicts become. And there's never enough. There's never enough for a love addict. There's never enough. The right type of love, they never get enough attention. There's just never enough for a love addict. The other thing is the love addicts neglect their own care, and they don't value themselves in a relationship. They give up their own self-care, to be there for the other person. They hardly think about themselves. Now, there is a twist to this. Everything an addict does is self-centered. I don't care if, so the self-centeredness of a love addict is we want someone else's attention to make us feel better. That's about self. That is about self. If I just had the perfect boyfriend, if my husband would pay more attention to me, if my children loved me more, if they would come to see me more. It's all about the love addict. It looks so like love addicts are so long suffering. I hate to tell you folks, they're not. They look like it, and they are, but they do it for a payoff. We want when we're in love addiction, we want you to love us back, and there's never enough. You cannot love a love addict enough. And so consequently, they pick an avoidance addict in the first place, someone that's not available. And I'll tell you, if they happen to run across a healthy person and a love addict starts chasing them, a healthy person will not get into that type of relationship. They'll get out of that sucker in a heartbeat because it's an uneven relationship. And then when an avoidance addict or even a normie ends a relationship with a love addict, oh my God, that is when the heat is on. The bottom line to love and sex addiction is homicide and suicide. You can pick up a newspaper anytime. And when I say love addiction, let's say love addiction and love avoidance. When a love addict gives out too much love and they choose and have chosen an avoidance addict that can't give love, what happens is that love addict, sometimes they go absolutely insane. And so when this avoidance addict turns away and tries to walk off, that just revs that love addict up. They get addicted, the love addict gets addicted to the back walking away. That's when they feel really challenged, is when their love object walks away. Let's say a mother is totally addicted to their son. I'm going to use an example. I have a grandson that is 21 years old, and he has every right to be spoiled because he was raised surrounded by women. Spoiling didn't take with him. We loved him. But that situation could have gone sour in a heartbeat, where one particular child, if it's the only child around, and so much love is given to that child, then when the child tries to leave home, no one wants them to leave home. And I'll tell you, thank God we were all healthy enough to say, okay, Spencer, bye, go off to college, go do whatever you need to do. That's what healthy parenting is. We raise our children with an outstretched hand, encourage them all the way. Go on out there. If you're 2, put your shoes on. If you're 3, go make friends, even though you don't like other kids. We do age appropriate letting go of our children. So when it's time for them to walk out the door in adulthood, we've been letting go ever since they were born. That's what we do, is healthy parenting. But if parents are not healthy, and I'm not just, it can be men too, but it's mostly, I hate to say it, it's mostly women that get so into love. It can be both. But let's say a mother is so addicted, she has one child, she can be so addicted to that child, girl or boy, and just be sick when they leave home. And a lot of times they'll leave home with them. They'll move with them, So, I keep saying it doesn't always have to be a love, romantic relationship. So what love addicts have is that total fear of abandonment, but then they have the total fear of intimacy. And that's the same thing that the avoidance addict has. They have a fear of intimacy. And then they hook up together, and we wonder why relationships of that sort don't work. Let's see where I'm at now. Like I said, intimacy is from the neck up. It's not from the neck down. So we've got to get into recovery. We've got to first look at our codependency, and then from that, look at those 3 elements of love addiction and see if you're a love addict, and then what to do about it. There are some things to do about love addiction, and we encourage our clients all of the time to do this, because any addiction, I don't care what it is, alcohol, drugs, food addiction, overeating, undereating, binge, purge, I don't care what you use, love, the process addictions, love and sex, gambling, work addiction, whatever it is an addiction to avoid reality. It is so we don't have to live and face the real world. We're not a bunch of idiots if we didn't get something out of an addiction. We'd do it a little while and then we'd give it up. We think, oh, well, that doesn't work, I don't want to do that. But for addicts that have that brain chemistry, addictions work for us. And we do it until we run it into the ground, until we get so sick that we have to have help, wind up in a treatment center, or so the recovery process I said that to say, whatever age that we were when we started an addiction, I want you to think about this. Sometimes people start drinking and using drugs at age 12, 13, 14, 15 years of age, 16. In today's time, 17 and 18, that's old to start an addiction. I mean, kids, eating disorders, you name it. What happens, it stunts the emotional growth of a person. Emotionally, now they may grow up intellectually and they may hold down good jobs, they may accomplish this and that and something else, but emotionally you look inside and still that little kid that hasn't grown up. It's that little kid that, and then when they find the drugs and alcohol or eating disorders, that stunts the growth, that stunts the emotional growth. So the number one thing for love addicts, the process of recovery from love addiction is growing up. Grow yourself up. It involves confronting those 5 core symptoms of codependency. And what those are is learning how to have a healthy self-esteem, learning how to set healthy boundaries, learning to have a sense of self, ourself, who we are. We go out and try to find a mate when we don't even know who we are, and then it's the self-care, learning to take care of ourselves, and then looking at moderation in our life. And that moderation is also, that includes moderation in our speech, that includes moderation and in anything that we do, is learning to some form of moderation. Now, if you're an addict, you can't use a little bit. If you're a true addict, don't think you can use in moderation, but I'm talking more about emotions and feelings. And number 2, so first thing is grow yourself up. We got to grow up. Number 2 is face reality. Facing reality means taking a good look at who you are before you go out looking for a partner. If you don't know who you are, you'll never know when you have who you're going out there to find. And there are women in particular that will sleep with men when they're in the disease, that wouldn't let them cross the threshold of their home in recovery. And men too, but I want you to think about that. Women particularly, and men, will sleep with people that they wouldn't take home to mother to meet. They wouldn't bring them into their home. They wouldn't take them out in public. And so that brings up another thing is, and I know today that, and I don't have a judgment, it's not a judgment call, But in looking for a partner, you know, there's a process to looking for a partner. First thing is know yourself first. Know who you are. And then if you meet someone, it's like you meet them, you say hi, hello, you meet and greet. Maybe you're at a fundraising function, or maybe at church or a singles group, whatever. You meet someone. And if there's any attraction, then you go to the second phase of building a friendship. That second phase is you get to know something about each other. You maybe go for coffee, or maybe you know, go have a meal together, and you just start kind of getting to know each other. That's the second phase of a friendship, of a relationship. That third phase then is a biggie. You share something with that person, something personal about yourself that you don't want the world to know, and you see how that person handles it. Now, if you're in a group of people that y'all all know, that you both know each other, watch if that information comes back to you. You know, if that person that you've told something dear that to you, to that other person, and it comes back to you, don't run away from that person. They are sharing your personal information, and that will tell you a lot about that person. And then the fourth deal, once you get past, meeting and greeting and getting acquainted, and then the third thing is where you can exchange information and be safe with the other person. Then that fourth thing is you can turn around and go out and have friendships with other people. You can both be interdependent. You can go out with your girlfriends, you can go out with the guys. You don't have to be all grouped up together every minute of the day. And if that happens without jealousy coming up, you've got a pretty strong deal going there, where you can go out. And what happens, you go out and you can gain information about the world and come back and share it with each other, and that brings excitement to the relationship. But if you just stay all balled up with each other all the time, eventually you're going to learn everything each other knows, and it gets real boring. So you can leave the relationship and come back because there's trust there. And then the fifth thing, guess what? Is the sexual relationship. You don't enter the sex relationship until you have these first four in place. In today's time, people meet, greet, and jump in bed, and then they wonder, and maybe on the first date, and then they wonder why relationships don't work. I mean, we treat them all the time. This is love addiction. Love addiction. They'll give themselves away sexually in order to get love. All right, I've stopped sharing and gone to preaching. Okay, so number one, growing up, face reality. And then number three, grieve the losses. Grieve losses. Look at relationships that you've had before. Take a good look at yourself and grieve the loss of what, if you really want to recover, you can't stay the same. You cannot stay the way that you used to be. And you might like some of that stuff, like meet and greet and have sex, whatever that stuff is. You grieve that. You grieve, or maybe partners that wasn't available to you. You grieve. Grieve it. Grieve the losses. Maybe you have been in some really, you thought was the relationship. And then it turned out not. Grieve it. There's a loss there. And then what's the high cost that you're giving to yourself by staying in? You're staying in a sick relationship by letting them live rent-free in your head. If they're gone on down the road and you're letting them live rent-free in your head, you're still in that deal. So grieve the losses. And then the fourth thing is reparenting yourself. By the time you can buy liquor in most states by the time you're 18. 21, not buy liquor. You can go to the service. You can fight in the Army at age 18. You can do a few things. at age 21 in most states you can buy liquor. You know, I think that is just so unreal that you can go fight in a war, but you can't buy a beer. But anyway, and then, but the brain doesn't fully form till age 25. And by the age 25, you're getting a little sense on board, you know, some little cognitive stuff going on. And so it is about, number 4 is reparenting yourself, becoming your own best parent. Your parents, some have, you know, had good parents. Some of us didn't get any parenting. We became the parents. So we've got to start nurturing ourselves, find ways to take care of ourselves, or we're going to go out there and try to find somebody that will do that for us. I'll tell you what, folks, the partner that you choose, it is not their job to parent you. And what you do, if you have found somebody that wants to do that, you have found someone as sick as you are. Sickness seeks its own level, and health seeks its own level. The healthier you get, the more healthy people that you will be attracted to. So nurture yourself, take care of your body, feed yourself appropriately. If you're an addict, recover from your addiction. Quit using people, places, and things to fill the hole in your soul. And, you know, this is where also that spirituality that we worked on in codependency, improving our spirituality. This is where that can come in. Well, it comes in all 5 stages. But in reparenting yourself, let God reparent you. You know, let God be the healthy parent that you have wanted. And God lives and works through people. You know, I have had some healthy older women put in my life that have mothered me, and I'm sad to say they're all gone. And, you know, they were older, and, you know, so they're all gone. You know, so find me with people that can help fill that hole in your soul. And it can't be just one person. It can be, you know, but this is where good sponsors come in. This is where, you know, good connections with people come in. Nurture yourself, take care of your body. This is also where, you know, we ask people to do affirmations. Write out 50 affirmations, very simple affirmations to yourself. And look in the dark part of your eye in the mirror and read those 50 affirmations to yourself. And you do that 5 times a day for 2 weeks and see what happens. I've had people do that and they've seen remarkable results with themselves. 50 affirmations, 5 times a day in front of a mirror for 2 weeks. It does not take very long. And at the end of those 2 weeks, you know, that computer, that brain, that, you know, powerful computer in your brain is going to have absorbed those affirmations, and they will become a working part of the mind and body. And then number 5 is forgiveness. Learning to forgive yourself. Get off of your own back, and please get off of the back of others. You know, forgive others in your life. And, you know, the number 1 dominant attitude love addicts need to revamp is that to stop expecting all of your good feelings to come from someone else. You know, stop expecting warm, positive regard and caretaking from others. Caretaking needs to come from you, from the inside out, not the outside in. Yeah, we can be in good, healthy relationships. In a healthy relationship, it's a give and take. You know, maybe you have a relationship with an adult child. I'll just give you an example. Kim and I spend a lot of time together. Now, that wasn't true in the past. Through her addiction, my addiction, we grew far apart. Through recovery, we have come very close together. I never knew my daughter until these last 11 years of her, almost 12 years of her sobriety. And so we've become very close, and we spend a lot of time together in a healthy way. And she's been off in Colorado doing a training to take people on adventures, and she's very excited about it. She's been up on top of mountains, 11,000, 12,000, 1,400, 14,000 feet. Anyway, my point is, we have developed a loving adult relationship, not a mother to child. Now, sometimes, like she called me the other day, I want to tell on her, she called me the other day and she was top of this mountain and they had walked, she had hiked all the way up there, and she's the oldest one in the group. They're all much younger, and they only had one phone that would work. The woman is passing around and let people call on it. And so she called and she said, "Just a minute, Mother, I want to step away." And so she stepped away and she said, "I've just got a minute on here." But she said, "Mother, I just needed to hear my mama's voice." I'll tell you, 12 years ago, that wouldn't have happened. She never wanted to hear her mother's voice. I was mother, not her mama. And this is what recovery offers. Now, I'm not her everything, but I'm important in Kim's life. Kim's important in my life. I have missed her. I just missed her the last couple of days. It's been good to kind of, anyway, it was a good missing. And so, but that we had to build that relationship. I see a woman on here, where did she go? Loretta. And she and her daughter, and I don't need to speak for her, but anyway, I see wonderful things happening in her relationship. We can have healthy relationships with our grown adult children. I have healthy relationships with each one of mine. My son is kind of a, not real, when I hear from my son is when his little heart gets broke and he's 60 years old. But I'm still mama to those 4 kids when they, grown kids, when they have need a soft place to land. But anyway, I have good relationships with all 4 of my kids. Had I not gotten into recovery, I would be so love addicted to them. They would all have to move 1,000 miles away from me to have some peace of mind. But through recovery, that hadn't happened. We both all have our individual lives, but then we come together in a healthy way. And I don't want to paint a pie in the sky picture for you. We have our ups and downs, but the difference is we can talk about them, work through them, and get past them. So if you're a love addict, get help. If you're an avoidance addict, get help. If you have any addiction, get help. So anyway, that's what I have about love addiction. If you really are a love addict, please get Pia's book. It has a whole inventory that you can do. It gives assignments. It's really a thorough book, and I'd recommend it highly. We also recommend our 4-day intensive. That is really good to come do some work around your love addiction and our sex addiction or avoidance addiction. All right, any questions, comments?